Hello and welcome to our second Primal guide for Final Fantasy XIV Heavensward. This is Bismarck, a giant floating sky whale. This Primal is fought atop a giant sky island being pulled across the skies by Cid's airship. The fight is pretty unique from the other Primal fights as to the fact that the majority of the damage dealt by your party isn't all directed at the actual boss himself. The majority of the fight then is dealing with a multitude of adds that spawn throughout. The island you stand on actually has its own health bar, as you can see to the right there. If this drops below 25%, then the whole thing crumbles and your party dies, and you have to do it all over again. The other noticeable and obvious thing here is that the platform has no barriers, and that if you get knocked off by any of the mechanics we're about to talk about today, then you're out of the fight permanently. Okay, so let's sort out what does what then. Firstly, you need to ensure that you have either organised, or if you're pugging, that two people have manned or are prepared to man two harpoons on either side of a platform. These are used in the fight and are important. In the centre of the platform there's a shield device. This device is used to prevent the island from taking too much damage when the Primal rams the island. It needs to be activated just in time, too early however, and Bismarck will do full damage, shortening the likelihood of you completing the fight. So the fight begins with Bismarck dealing damage to the island as well as spawning two adds. These adds are your DPS priority, but make sure you avoid their AoE circles as they can actually do a knockback. A little further into the fight and Bismarck will do a diving animation. This is a signal to activate the shield generator I talked about earlier. As he comes in for a ram of the island, make sure you've activated it. And make sure if someone is capable of doing this, don't just leave it and expect people to do it, make sure someone is doing this or do it yourself. After a while of this repetition, a message will come up notifying the party that the Harpoon Cannons are ready to be fired. You need to have two designated members fire them at the beast. If you fail to fire them in the time however, Bismarck will damage them out of repair and cause your team to wait a whole nother cycle before they can be used again. Once the harpoons are in the whale's hide, the boss will be drawn in close through chains, enough that your party can actually jump onto his back. Here you need to do as much damage as possible, saving all damage cooldowns for this, and try to destroy the shit-in enemy on his back. It's worth noting here that you actually have to be on the beast's back to damage the shit-in, and you cannot do it from the island. So if you're ranged, you have to jump over as well. If the shit-in is not destroyed in one cycle, it should be close to death and easily dealt with within the next time the cannons are up on the next cycle. Do the same and kill it the next time you're on his back, or if you have a high DPS team, it'll die in one phase. Once the shit-in add is dead, this marks the end of the first real phase of the fight, and phase 2 opens up with Bismarck pulling away from the island and summoning large adds. These have the same knockback abilities to be aware of and the AoE circles to avoid. Additionally, tornadoes will now spawn on the island, and these are very bad news bears indeed if you go into one. On top of that, the boss now spawns exploding bubbles to avoid as well. This is all about avoiding as much as possible and not chaining too much damage and panicking. Stay safe, and if needs be, choose the option to take damage from the bubble rather than getting hit by tornadoes or knockbacks, as they will be healable. The fall from the others, not so much. After these two main adds are dead, the boss will reappear from the clouds and cast a pretty powerful AoE on the platform. This does a lot of damage, so make sure that when you see him reappear, that people are as close to full health as possible and topped off. This room attack actually destroys the shield device in this phase and makes phase 3 a race against time. Phase 3 then is very much about killing the boss before the island completely dies, so damage limitation in the previous two phases is very important. The boss will now also spawn 4 adds to deal with, along with the usual AoEs to avoid. Take these adds out as soon as possible, and as soon as the harpoons are ready to fire again, chain the whale in once again. With the shit-in adds dead now in phase 1, it now lets you plow into the boss's health itself. This phase is fairly simple, and if you got this far then it should be a certain kill. Pop everything you have on it and you should have cleared Bismarck. Hopefully this was a helpful video, and be sure to keep tuned for more from Cast. My name's Meoni, and I'll see you next time.